Um, Thanks for joining. Tonight we're gonna do a quick walkthrough, probably in less than 30 minutes. I'm gonna try and keep it to 20 minutes of one of my favorite reference books that touches upon tonalism, Charles Warren Eaton. And we're gonna walk through this book. We're gonna walk through some art practice related goals that I have in mind for this year. And also going to share maybe one or two things that I purchased recently and have been working on along the way. So I'm going to go ahead. We're going to walk through some art practice related goals that I have in mind for this year. There we go. I think we're good to go now. So had a little reverberation there. I think I'm watching my own live stream. Go figure. So in any event, I'm going to go ahead and reverse my camera. And there you go. You see some of my work over there, which soon will be hanging in a local wine shop, some of it anyway, called Tolinos. And that's if I ever get over to see our friend Jen and get it hung up on the wall. And in the meantime, as always, I apologize for my shoddy camera work, but what I have here is quite the gem. So this is a book that I purchased probably at this point a little over a year and a half to 2 years ago. Charles Warren Eaton. It is subtitled An American Tonalist Rediscovered. And this has been a beautiful reference book for me. I've covered Charles Warren Eaton and provided videos in my channel here for quite a few of my efforts to study his work, including this painting on the cover here and many others. I've probably covered Charles Warren Eaton more than any other single artist, largely in part because of this wonderful book and the reference materials it gives, but also I am drawn to his work and his story. So this book is brief, but packed with really, really good information if you're interested in the tonalist movement or Charles Warren Eaton himself. There's a picture of good old Chuck, or Chaz, as he referred to himself as from time to time, one of his paintings in studio. Probably, I would imagine, in Bloomfield, New Jersey, which is where he resided for most of the later years of his life. And obviously, we have the normal, publisher information and other things. So, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I'll try to stop apologizing for my horrible camera work. I don't think that'll ever be a strength of mine. Yeah, so it's a pleasure reviewing this book. A lot of information on how they pulled this this book together, and what their intentions were, and what they knew about the artist. And actually, a niece of Charles Warren Eaton was actually played a pivotal role in pulling this all together. So it's some interesting perspective. Obviously, it was a different time, turn of the century. So, we don't have footage, and we don't have a lot of digital archives, but there are some writings and a lot of paintings that were available. So here we go. We have this very first painting, which is part of the section where they go through Eaton's life, striking to me. And actually, it's one of the very first paintings I saw of his that kind of drew me in. It's called A Strip of Pines. It was painted in a format that was 30 inches by 36 inches. It still resides, I believe, in the Montclair Art Museum in New Jersey, and I've been intending to pay a visit there for quite some time, just haven't gotten there. Used to live in that area of New Jersey for most of my childhood and teen years, and had a lot of friends that went to Montclair State University and lived in the area, as a matter of fact, and played ice hockey in that area quite a bit. So this was a gift of the William T. Evans or Bill Evans family, and was painted in 1908. So this is the second figure. There are 60 beautiful, although you probably can't see it quite as well as I would like, beautiful images, really high quality photos of his work, 63 of them throughout this book. And most of them are quite a bit larger than this when you get past his biography. It talks about his sources and his inspirations. He was somebody who was drawn to the work of George Inness. Obviously, was familiar with the Barbizon School and other. Only was from upstate New York, and then moved to New York City, and ultimately settled in suburban New Jersey. He chose, apparently, according to the storyline here, Bloomfield, New Jersey, which is a town that's, I believe, adjacent to Montclair, which is where George Inness spent his years, and he was kind of the center of the art universe at that time. So there is so much great stuff in here. We're going to move quickly here. I'm going to point out that in addition to Eaton's work, there are some images of, here's an Inness painting called Winter Morning in Montclair, painted in 1882, oil on canvas, 30 by 45 inches. And that too is at the Montclair Art Museum, apparently, I believe, still. So that'd be another thing I'd like to check out live. That would be great. Anyway, when you make your way through this book, talks about how he was pretty adventurous. It talks about his time as a student in New York and some of the tension that he experienced, trying to make a success of himself in a way where he could pursue art full time. And it required him to work, just like most artists that pursue creative endeavors. He had to work at other jobs while he was, building his resume and his following. And if you look at his work when he kind of hits his prime, here in 1890, Snowy Landscape at Dusk. I mean, this is another one of those paintings that I know the camera work, once again, is not the greatest, but there is a lot of detail hidden in this. This is not just, a dark, moody painting kind of scratched out. There is a ton of detail and a ton of color, layers and layers of color in there. So, yeah, I would just encourage you to check out his work. Again, over 63 colorful images like this one. I had done it before, but I just recently covered this and made an attempt at studying this painting. And when I do it, I'm usually doing it wet on wet. The tonalist movement was known for using all kinds of techniques that went well beyond wet on wet, alla prima style painting. They used glazes and scrumbling and whatever was necessary to get the effects that they were going for. Usually when I am studying these paintings, partially due to time constraints, but also due to curiosity, I just have more fun painting wet on wet and only have maybe the patience for that method of painting. I try to get as close as I can intuitively, to the effects that they achieved with their more sophisticated techniques that they employed. So, I'll bring that actual study in. This is just from last week. So, it's a rough copy, much smaller format, and not a lot of science involved in trying to replicate that. But that's a more recent study that I've done of an Eaton painting, and it was a lot of fun. Watching that evolve and come together. And there's a few more in here. Let's see. We can go well beyond this. What's interesting is he also experimented quite successfully in other mediums like watercolor and pastel. And he had quite a little network or gang of artists that he tended to circulate, with, and sometimes around the world. Here's a beautiful painting of his, moonlight in the, I know I'm going to mispronounce this, the Bruges Canal, I believe. And this is day. All right, so there's a lot, so much in this book. What I thought was interesting, I was reviewing this. I hadn't really paid much attention to this painting, but it caught my eye. I was really interested in the subtle light filtering through, hitting the ground, and the shadows on the forest floor in this particular painting. And I never had noticed before that this painting actually is an Edward Steichen painting, Night Landscape, circa 1905. And apparently the thank you. Bruges, yes. So anyway, this painting was done by Edward Steichen, and apparently I am no art history buff, although I did take some art classes in college and have done a bunch of workshops. He was, I guess, more well known for his photography, and some refer to him as one of the greatest photographers of all time. But he also painted, and that happens to be one of his paintings. And apparently, there's a little bit of a relationship within the higher end of the art industry at that particular time between him and Eaton and other well-known artists. Eaton did get to travel to Europe, so you can see here's a nice little painting he did, Lake Como. And that was circa 1910 to 1920. I guess there were a couple of adventures that he had taken to Europe and had the opportunity to paint. This is oil on board, 8 by 10 inches. I think he does a beautiful job, simplifying. And I would say what stands out to me about all of his paintings is just the masterful way that he crafts his shapes throughout his paintings. So he'll use all kinds of methods to make a painting interesting. The design of the overall painting and the color and the mood and so on and so forth. But what always has jumped out at me is the effective way that he just builds simple shapes into the overall painting design. So once you get past this section, which is his biography, which is about 32 pages long. And at this point, we've only gone through, 20 of these color plates. Then we jump in past, some notes and references into the larger plates that make up the remainder of the book. So here's another photograph of Eaton, and then we get into these larger color plates showing some of his fantastic work. It has a pretty wide variety. And again, there's 63 of them. So I'm just going to page through in reverse order. I might spotlight some that I've covered. I did this one early on in a really small format. This looks like near where we live now. We live in the Pocono Mountains. So if you go to like the Kittatinny Mountain ridges or ridge, or if you go down near Shawnee, it's a little resort area. We have larger hills, at least for the East Coast, larger mountains, and a lot of these tall pines. So this was an earlier effort to kind of study that in a real small format, 5 by 7 inches, and it's always an adventure. More recently, I covered this painting here on the left-hand side. I thought it was interesting, much different palette than I normally would choose, but this is closer to the West Coast. This is Glacier Park, Montana. So he painted this in 1921, 24 by 20 inches, signed in the lower left-hand corner as Chaz Warren Eaton. Apparently he evolved, and I guess a lot of people started referring to him as Chaz instead of Charles. But you'll see much more blue, stronger blues that has to do with the lake color and the sky and the atmosphere. Um, Largely out west, from what I understand. From what I've seen, other artists that are much more well versed in all this stuff related to color theory and capturing the atmosphere and so on and so forth. Apparently, it's just generally more blue out west. So there's tons of beautiful works here, and he definitely has a strong influence on at least my start with oil painting. This was actually one of the first, this painting right here. Yeah, I would love to attempt a couple of plein air paintings in locations like this one that you see here. Um, Obviously, from a high vantage point looking over a flat plain area. This is the Shawangunk Valley. It's in New York State, upstate New York. Happens to be at dawn or dusk. I believe it's probably dusk. Um, this is 30 by 36 inches. And again, I've done a really crude study of this, 12 by 12 on a panel a long time ago. And I believe we had somebody actually visit us. One of my cousins actually claimed it, I think, not too long ago. Very blue when it's not raining, yeah. Especially relative to the eastern part of the United States. It's funny, you run into people from all over the place. One time I was on a plane, forget where I was flying to, but there was somebody from, I want to say, were they from Duluth or were they from one of the, I guess, closer to the northern plains, and they were talking about, it was a little bit further west. It might have been Iowa, somewhere in Iowa. And he said what he noticed flying over our region here in the East Coast, the rivers and the streams, generally speaking, especially when the weather was behaving normally, were bluer. Where he was from, they were all red or brown. So I guess where you go, hopefully at some point some adventures can come about where we get to actually incorporate some of those into some paintings. All right, so there is just so much. Hopefully you are enjoying some of this. There's that photo on the cover here. I love this one. This resonates with me because it kind of looks like some of the scenery that we see locally here in northeastern Pennsylvania. Obviously, trying to evoke feelings of, stillness and calm, I guess, probably at sunset. Yep, there we go. Sunset in the Pines, circa 1900 to 1910. This is 24 and an eighth by 20 and an eighth inches. And, you see in the Northeast lakes like this all over the place, whether it be Connecticut, upstate New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. And you have these tall pines that oftentimes will, be right near the shoreline, and you can see scenes like this. Actually, a lake in our community, to me, looks very similar to this at different parts of the year. All right. I will shift gears. Again, there's 63 palettes or paintings that are highlighted here, I should say. So if you ever have a chance to pick up this book, it's well worth it if you enjoy this type of art. He does, stray from oil painting. This is pastel on paper, and there's a lot there, although it does look, kind of monochromatic and dark and so on and so forth. There's a lot of color there. This is on this left-hand side here, watercolor on paper. And he could do it all. So he did everything pretty well, and sometimes they were kind of bright and cheery and sometimes moody, incorporating farm life. So it's kind of neat. Anyway, one of my favorites, and if you have a chance to pick this up, I can't remember what I paid for this particular copy, but I think it was used. One, I wrote down probably just prior to the new year a couple of goals. Some are commercial related. Oh, awesome. Oh, that'd be great. I am not, but I'll check it out. So is it Rie Muñoz. I will check it out for sure, and that would be helpful. I'm always curious to learn about different painters and different artists, and yeah, I would love to see you go ahead and offer up some thoughts about that. That'd be great. So for my particular art practice, I have some commercial ideas, goals that I'm just not ready to share. I want to refine those, but I did write down that it's been quite a while since I've done a formal workshop. So thank you. It is Ray. Okay. So this year, I'm looking to do 1 to 2 workshops, and I have my calendar out, and I'm picking from different ideas, looking at the calendar, trying to find ways to plug it in. I'm looking at some of they have really good workshops from past experience at the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts in Philadelphia, and now quite a few of them are available as online workshops as well. There are some teachers that are from that institution that do some stuff independent on their own. I'm looking at some of their stuff. I'm looking at some of the online teachers as well to see if maybe something makes sense. So again, 1 to 2 workshops. I want to do 2 plein air events, and also I've never really made an attempt at it, but I'm going to try and do a self-portrait. So I figure I might make that part of my practice. I understand there's a couple different benefits associated with that. So I'm starting small. Still painting, part-time. So, I need to be realistic, but I think those are achievable goals. And I'd be curious to hear about yours if you have any in mind, but those are things that I hope to achieve by the end of 2024. And wanted to share with you, I purchased something. I was inspired by my cousin, actually. Look her up. She is an amazing watercolor artist that specializes in she does architectural and home portraits and pet portraits, and she's an instructor, and she does really beautiful paintings of plant life. So she has been doing some journaling workshops, and I also am a fan of James Gurney as well, so I follow his work, and he does the same thing. He has a journal. It's probably a little bit larger than this one that he actually paints in, I believe, almost daily. And I got this originally. I had looked in a box store, art supply store. I won't name names, but they were just really, these sorts of journals, for some reason, the watercolor journals were, I thought, overpriced. So I was able to find this little guy. It's 25% cotton, acid-free watercolor journal. It's small. It is 3.5 by 5.5 inches, and it's 140-pound weight paper. So I'm going to try and on a regular basis, mostly with watercolor, but occasionally incorporating maybe a little bit of gouache or casein, but mostly watercolor, fill up this journal over the course of the year as well. So I guess that's kind of a goal as well. But just wanted to share that with you. This was just about $10. Some of the other colored covers, like brown and black, were a little bit more expensive, but I went with this cover, this little gray cover. Figured, something I'm going to be using every day. It'll get beat up. Nothing I'm going to attempt to sell, but it would just be a good tool for me to use, and it was reasonably priced and pretty high quality. So just wanted to reference that if it's something you're interested in, and if you have a chance, check out my cousin Stephanie Berry. Her work is incredible. In any event, thanks again for checking this out. I appreciate the interaction, and you're buying some of my stuff this year and jump on when I announce, regardless of the medium. All right, well, I appreciate that. Thanks, Corey. Yeah, and definitely share if you have information, or if you do actually attempt to cover Rie Muñoz. Please let me know. I'd like to check out and get some insight into the work there, and you never know, it might be something that I try to cover myself as well. And if you have the opportunity to check out this book, if it's the type of art that you enjoy, I would encourage you to do so. And thanks for joining. I appreciate you checking out the live session here. We'll do it again next Wednesday. I think next Wednesday we'll probably do a similar walk through a book, and I might actually walk through a process that I'm working on. I have a couple of ideas that I may want to share and kind of capture on the channel here during a live session. Stay safe and be well.